Two citizenship programs that we talk about here have just lost travel privileges to a big country. I'm going to tell you what you need to know and how to plan for your second citizenship. Not that long ago, the UK came out and said, we want to evaluate the kind of people that are getting citizenship in Caribbean citizenship by investment countries. These are programs where, generally speaking, you donate an amount of money, $100,000, $125,000, $150,000, and you and your family can get citizenship in a matter of months after passing a background check. But there was talk in the UK as the war between Russia and Ukraine continues, as talk of a war with China continues. Hey, what if there are people from China, which is one of the big countries where people want to get second citizenship? What if people that are actually working for the government or actually have some nefarious intent are getting these citizenships and then they're able to come to the UK without a visa? Chinese and Lebanese and Russian and a lot of people who don't have great passports obviously like the idea of citizenship by investment to enhance their travel and run their business and everything else. Whereas the Westerners who watch our channel want citizenship by investment as a backup plan. And so the UK has come out with its first ruling. Two countries, one in the Caribbean, one not, have now lost visa-free access with immediate effect to the United Kingdom. Vanuatu, which has been in hot water for some time, we've talked about their program for a number of years as not being that reputable. The background checks are not that stringent. I was in Vanuatu a number of years ago, and you can just kind of tell they're kind of winging it, unfortunately. And so Vanuatu recently had their access to the European Union's Schengen area suspended. So Vanuatu passport holders by investment can't go to France, can't go to Germany, can't go to Spain without getting a visa first, and now they can't go to the UK. Also, the Caribbean, Dominica, its citizens have lost access to the UK without getting a visa with immediate effect. The other four countries continue as they are. We'll see what the UK has to say about those. Now, as we said, Vanuatu has had problems, and it's generally something that if you want as a passport portfolio, as a third, fourth, fifth passport, if you have some kind of special circumstance, maybe that can work for you. But otherwise, the Caribbean programs were generally superior. Dominica had a reputation for being a bit faster and maybe not being quite as thorough as the others. I think, quite frankly, the due diligence, having gone through the St. Lucia program myself, having watched my wife go through that, they're pretty thorough. And by the way, they're already not letting Russians in, and in some cases already not letting Ukrainians in. But what does this mean for you? Let's say that you plan to get Caribbean citizenship, and you want to know, if I plan to get Dominica, or what if the other ones lose this UK access also, what does that logistically mean for me? Well, first of all, if you have the passport you have now, and that passport allows you to go to the UK, nothing changes. Oftentimes when people get citizenship from a CBI country, they will want to use that CBI country's passport just to feel what it's like in case they ever wanted to get rid of their current passport. So let's say you're an American, right? And you get citizenship in St. Lucia. If you have access, to one country that you're going to go visit through both the U.S. and the St. Lucian passport, as long as you're not required to use the U.S. passport to get into that country, like let's say, you're going back to the U.S., you shouldn't go as a St. Lucian. Perhaps if you're going to Canada, there's a special relationship. Probably should go as an American, you don't want to get a visa. But if you're going to the UK, hey, use the St. Lucia citizenship and see what it's like. Personally, I had more hassles going in as an American a number of years ago to the UK than I did as a St. Lucian. That's a nice thing to do because you want to experience what life is like under your new passport. But if you're American and Dominican, and now Dominicans can't go, you just use the U.S. passport. You can actually go through the fast lanes now with the e-gates. So nothing's really changed. Let's say you used to be American and you gave up the U.S. citizenship, and now the only passport you have is Dominican. You will need to get a visa. I'll come back to that in a moment. This is why I believe in having multiple passports. Now, citizenship by investment countries were some of the ones that allowed access into the UK. A lot of other passports that you might get might be pretty good passports. If you are Dominican, you will need to now go and apply for a visa. You start the process online. You generally will send your passport in. Every country operates a little bit differently. The UK does have a bit more of a rigorous process. You have to tell them how much money you make. You have to, fill in a number of data points for them to issue you that visa. I was recently talking to a friend of mine in Montenegro. She got visas for her family to go to the UK quite easily because Montenegro has a decent passport, but the UK is one of the few countries in Europe they can't go to without a visa. So it just took her some time. Now, the issue is if you are very young, if you're a young single woman in particular, if you're a freelancer, I mean, there's certain things where when giving a visa, certain countries just don't like to see. What they like to see is, my tailor, for example, has a big tailoring business in Colombia. He has strong links to the community, owns property, etc. Hey, this guy's probably going to come back. Give him a US visa. Give him a UK visa. I have lawyers in various countries. The guy's a lawyer. He seems like a, well put together person, has plenty of money. Give him the visa. If you are in a situation that is more transient than that, you may not be able to get a visa. If you're getting a visa to many countries, it's not going to be that difficult. It's a matter of showing $5,000, $10,000 in the bank, maybe giving them a home address somewhere. We're talking most countries in the world. I got a visa years ago to go to Thailand, for example. It was, one day to drop it off, fill out a one-page form, pay $30-some, come back the next day, pull it up. As long as you're not in their databases as being a terrible person, it's not an issue. So the question here is, does this matter? People are going to look at this and say, well, why do I want to get a second citizenship to not have that access to the UK? And they ask another question, which I'll answer, is this a contagion effect to where the quality of the product is going to go down? I think the answer is no. I'll come back to that in a minute. If you already have a good passport, let's say you're an American, Canadian, Australian, and you plan to keep that citizenship. Most Canadians, because they're not taxed no matter where they live, they're not giving up their citizenship. They're just moving to another country and they're becoming tax non-resident in their country. So most Westerners are looking for a second passport as a backup plan. If you're an American and you might not want to be American at some point in the future, I haven't suggested, at least for quite a while, just being Dominican. I've said pair it with something else. But if you plan to keep your good passport that you already have, this probably doesn't really make any difference. If you don't have a good passport and saw this as an opportunity to where I can get citizenship and be able to travel to London and do business and take my family and have fun every once in a while, then this will change things if you cannot easily get a visa. Yes, the visa is more difficult. Yes, the UK visa is not going to take just one day as the Thailand visa or some other, many other visas actually will take. But that is something you have to consider. The other question is, do you want to go to the UK? Let's say that you're only Dominican. You gave up whatever passport you had, you're only Dominican. Has your life changed? Visa-free travel matters, but you shouldn't think of this entirely from a Western perspective. We ask all of our clients, have you ever been rejected for a visa? And what many of them will say is, I've never had to apply for a visa, right? I mean, for many Westerners, Russia, China, maybe Iran, like Venezuela, I mean, where else would you go that you need a visa? But when you're getting a second passport as a Westerner, the goal is you are adding to your options. Many people aren't planning on even going to the UK, or again, they're going to have another passport to go there with. It may reduce a bit of your optionality, right? For me, hey, would it be nice to go to the UK? Yes. It'd be nice to be able to have the option to go to the UK. I don't want my optionality to go down, but I'll tell you this. If second citizenship for you is a plan B, are you going to run to the UK in times of a plan B? They're not going to let you in if you're running there as a plan B, because we've heard stories of an American who goes there to spend 2 months traveling around England, and they say, how can you spend, the border guard says, how do you spend 2 months? Like, don't you have a job? Aren't you employed? Oh, yeah, I've got a remote job. I can work from anywhere. Oh, so you're planning to work here while you're traveling? Yeah. Come with me. We'll get you a flight back to New York, because you can't do that here on a tourist visa. Even if you wanted to escape to the UK when the world was collapsing somewhere else, they wouldn't let you in. So to me, I don't see this as a huge issue for anyone who's getting second citizenship to build their optionality. The UK does not have a lot of residence permit optionality for entrepreneurs and investors. They shut down the investor visa right before the war with Russia and Ukraine. I mean, the UK, as we talked to Nigel Farage about last year, just doesn't really seem to want investors and entrepreneurs to come to its country. And, at a certain point, it's like, if they don't want you, don't go there. I don't see this as a cascading effect for the following reason. Dominica recently just introduced interviews. They're going to roll out interviews where you need to be interviewed, not necessarily in person, before you get the citizenship. So when I say that the West is trying to make it a little harder, this doesn't really add any difficulty to getting citizenship. It's just it's an extra thing to do. It's more time spent. Then it's perhaps a harbinger of things to come, which is why my bigger concern is just get the citizenship now before they, perhaps impose a residence requirement to get it. Dominica's introduced interviews, and that was one of the conditions that the Caribbean countries made with the U.S. to go and defend them with the European Union. there was talk, maybe Europe will close down to the Caribbean countries. And you'll need a visa to go there. Again, France, Spain, Lithuania, Germany, whatever. With the U.S. advocating for them and the payment essentially to the U.S. being, all right, we're going to start interviewing everybody to make sure we can look them in the eyes, even if it's just through a camera, and make sure that we feel comfortable with them and their motivations. All right, that seems perhaps to be sorted for now. Will there be a contagion effect with Ireland? Who knows? Sometimes Ireland follows the UK, sometimes they don't. Ireland does have a much easier system of immigrating, even though the Golden Visa program, the IIP, has been closed down. There's other ways. If you wanted to move to Ireland and spend time in Ireland, you could. Keep in mind the UK and probably any other country in Europe has its own visa regime, like in Ireland, even Bulgaria sometimes, in my experience, they're going to ask you more questions. When they say tourist visa, they really mean tourist visa. I don't see this as a huge loss. And I'm not saying that just because I'm an advocate of citizenship by investment. Now, the solution to this is you want to be building a portfolio. If you want all access, check your family tree. If you have an Irish parent or grandparent, you can get Irish citizenship. It's the only EU citizenship that allows you to go and live in the UK. So that common travel agreement predates the EU, and that's what makes Irish citizenship great. If you have anyone from anywhere else in Europe, obviously that's giving you a top quality, what we would call a Tier A passport, where you can then travel as a visitor. And, if you're Slovak or you're Czech or you're Italian or you're, Portuguese or whatever, you're going to be able to travel just as well as an American or any other top tier citizen that you can. If you don't have citizenship by descent, you can still go to Malta. They have the MEIN program. It is a citizenship by investment program on steroids. It takes longer than the Caribbean citizenship by investment programs. You're going to spend about 18 months, and you're going to pay about $1 million. And you can get citizenship for yourself and for your family. Again, you will not be able to go to the UK as of right. Only British and Irish passport holders can do that, but you will have a passport that allows you to go visa-free, and it's really doubtful any European Union country will have its access to the UK shut off. They may ask you a few questions at the UK. They understand Malta is a passport that's obtained in that method, but if you're an upstanding person, which you have to be to get that passport, I think you probably won't have any problems. And so if you want all access, the answer is it's going to cost more. If you have citizenship by descent, we offer that as a standalone service. Go to nomadcapitalist.com. So I look at this as you're building options. I don't see this as a huge loss of options for most of the people that we're talking to. We do help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs who want to figure out what's the best passport or collection of passports to get. I do generally think a portfolio is a good idea. I think 3 is a nice number. Triple citizenship gives you a lot of opportunities. You already have at least one. You want to get a second and preferably a third. We help people figure that out. While you're in the process, why don't you diversify your banking, your brokerage accounts? We help you put all those puzzle pieces together. We're the architect. We're the general contractor. We've got a network of hundreds of experts, lawyers, real estate agents, everything else around the world. It's a service like no other. You can go to nomadcapitalist.com, and we would be delighted to help you cut through the clutter from a perspective of we're not pushing a particular product. We're not a lawyer in Dominica who wants to sell you Dominica. We're not a Caribbean citizenship company that only pushes those 5 programs. We have dozens and dozens and dozens of options, and how they all work together is our specialty. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com and make sure you're making an educated decision about which dual citizenship is best for you.